Today, we're talking about how to best use data analytics. In particular, we're digging into the StratusLIVE 365 Analytics module. As far as our agenda goes today, first, I'll give you a brief introduction of our speakers. Then we'll dig into our challenge, how to best use data analytics, and how StratusLIVE approaches this challenge. We'll end with a brief demo of StratusLIVE 365 Analytics, and if time permits, we'll do a quick Q&A at the end. First up, our speakers for today. We have Brett Meyer. Brett is Director of Product Management and Services at StratusLIVE, and Debbie Schneider is Group Vice President of Sales and Marketing, and that's me, Lori Babiak. I'm a Digital Marketing Manager. First up, our challenge, how to best use analytics. The first question we get asked a lot is, how can I use analytics to help me understand my donor relationships and use it to prospect? Debbie?
Thanks, Lori. Well, simply put, using donor analytics can help your nonprofit make informed decisions and strategic decisions about how to best engage your donors and build constituent relationships. Donor analytics can help you break down and interpret your donor data to understand trends in your donor database and find actionable insights that you can use to structure your fundraising campaigns.
Thank you, Debbie. Next question, as a nonprofit that offers workplace giving, how can I understand the companies we work with and their employee giving?
I love this question, Lori, because I used to, I worked in a corporation leading their corporate giving campaigns for a number of years. It was a global campaign. And one of the things I always struggled with was having my nonprofit partners provide me analytics that I could make good use of. So I think analytics can really be a key success differentiator for both your nonprofit and your corporate partners. For your organization, your nonprofit organization, you can gain key insights into the various corporate campaigns that you're partnering on. You can factor in such variables as the time of donation, the donor's age, the donation size, the donor's location, and the donor's past event attendance or even volunteer engagement into your strategy. This will allow you to compare your year-over-year analytics and determine which campaigns are generating the most revenue, and therefore you can continuously make improvements to how you set and achieve your goals with your corporate partners. But one thing that's often overlooked is the benefit you can provide your corporate partners. You can better support your partners and their giving campaigns by using analytics to provide insight into the results of their campaign. Believe me when I say your corporate partners will be thrilled if you provide them analytics to help them determine impact and share this quantifiable impact with their employees and stakeholders. I know in my experience, the nonprofits that partnered with me and provided this type of intel that I could use in my reporting within my corporate chain and to my fellow employees will always be my preferred nonprofit in the future. So I think this is really important and gives you a key competitive advantage over other nonprofits that are calling on your corporate partners.
I agree. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and pass things over to Brett, who will provide us with a brief look at StratusLIVE 365 Analytics.
Thanks, Lori and Debbie. Let me get to my screen here. So we're going to touch on exactly what Debbie was just talking about with the account-based analytics, at least initially. And then we're going to talk about some contact-based analytics. So what I'm going to do is drill to one of my corporate accounts that we have in the system. I'm going to use my Royal Bank for my example. I'm going to sign into my Power BI. And this is going to bring up a dashboard view of the Royal Bank of Canada. Scroll down here a little bit just so we can get the full view of information in here about them. So just give you a little bit of a tour of some of the interesting things that we can see by looking at this. Is immediately I can see that we haven't run our 2021 campaign, or they chose not to for some reason. I can see consistent performance between a couple of years, which was actually up from the previous year set that's out there. I can see how people typically have given, whether it's been a gift or a pledge. Who has given by the connection types. Was it an employee? We can do sub-accounts. We also have from the primary organization, so that parent-child relationship can show up in here. And then in the center, I can see things like how much have we gotten total from the company, the employees, the average that we've gotten from each. When was our first transaction with them? When was our last transaction? What was our largest transaction that was from them, and how many employees do they have? And then down on the bottom, I get some interesting information that gets a little more in depth. So the top graphics are great for kind of looking at some of that analysis and the overall aspects of the organization. But the rest of this is really geared towards specifics. I can look at campaign details, and I'm going to show a little bit more on this in 1 second. But more importantly, I can see things like my leadership details. So I can see in here who we have for membership recognition, my titanium recognitions, my gold. And if I scroll over here just a little bit, this will show, kind of the detailed numbers that are part of that. Now, you'll notice that there's a plus sign on some of these analysis areas. And what that allows me to see is I can drill into detailed data. So now when I go across on here, what this is referring to is over the years. So since that Royal Bank has been donating with us, I can see that David Billingham has been a titanium donor 6 of those times. Donna has been a titanium 5, Chad 2, Juanita 2. So it allows me to really look at the data aspects of the individuals as well as the corporate components of that. Also, I can see my employee giving right over here. So I can see what their total gifts are, what their average gifts are. I can go in and look at this in different ways. I can reorganize my data just by clicking on a column. So who has the highest average, who has the highest total giving, and this is all real-time data. So you can see how quick it refreshes the screen and refreshes all of the information. Now, to talk about that a little bit more, let's look at just 2019. 2019 was one of our good years with them. That we didn't have a lot of corporate giving, but we had a fair amount of employee giving. Now, what I can do is right-click on the campaign period, so that's the year, and click drill down. What this does for me then is it refocuses everything on my dashboards. So now as I'm looking, I can see what it looked like for the giving. So what period of time was that over? I can see my peaks and my valleys on that. I can see what that total giving was. It was all gift giving. It was all from employees. And these are the campaigns that they gave to. So I can see in this year time period, my appeals campaign was actually my top campaign, quickly followed by the web and the online campaigns that we had for them, and then my annual and my acquisition campaigns. So I'm able to do that analysis and drill right down into all of those details just by using that drill. Now, if I want to move back up levels, it's as simple as clicking the up arrow here, and that's going to take me right up to the detail levels again, and it gets me right into that dashboard. So it's a really good view of information, and there's other things that we can do with this, but I want to kind of shift over to the individual side while I still have a few minutes here. So I'm going to go now to one of our donors, and we're going to use Brian Billingham as our example. And again, I have an embedded form within Brian's record. Now, for this one, I've already kind of pre-filtered this, so I'm only looking at the past 4 years, well, 4.5 years at this point worth of data. If I want to change this, I can move these buttons around so that I can get the full information on Brian, but I'm just going to leave those kind of where they are for right now. I have, of course, my general information about him, email address, who he works for, his spouse that's out there, and then I'm going to scroll down. And again, these are all different detail pieces that go along with Brian's information. Now, there's some interesting pieces that we've done with this dashboard that are a little bit different than what we saw on the other one. So we tried to make this dashboard about not just about Brian, and I can see Brian's giving. That direct giving is what we've gotten from Brian that we're measuring, but I can also see what we call raised and soft credit. So Brian has a lot of relationships in the system. Connections is what we call it in StratusLIVE. I can see all of his connections over here. So he's the board member of Bank of America. He's a parent. He's a solicitor. He's a congregation member and other things. He's the owner of Trace Family Medical Center. So all of these pieces of information become really important. I can see his familial relationships that are out there. So I can drill in, of course, to any of these. I can look at details if I wanted to look at 2020. Again, one click away shows me kind of everything that happened in 2020, and I'm able to look at the details of each of those different areas. I can look at, of course, transaction counts, first, last, largest, all details available to this portion of the system. Now, I'm going to come up here to the top and we're going to go all time. So I'm refocusing this. And now I start to get some additional information. So he's the endower of the Family Foundation. He's a child of Chad, and I can see what Chad has given. I have, more connections that Brian has within the system. So when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that Brian's connections seem to give. So Debbie talked about, using the data that we see and the ability to take this data and then make it actionable. So one of the actionable things that we could do with this is, since Brian's connections seem to give, does Brian have any connections that haven't given? So I'm going to come up here to our top drill down, and I'm going to go to the connections entity up here. And again, we're going to see all of those connections that Brian has had across time. But I want to do a little bit of analysis on this, and I happen to have a view of information, and it's called Connections Without Gifts. So I've already pre-created this in Advanced Find, so I could use this anywhere in the system, any contact I'm looking at or any other record that I'm looking at, to find people that they know that have not created a gift or have not made a gift. So I'm going to click on that. And really quickly, I can see that Brian has 3 friends, and he also was a mentor to Yoko back in 2017. So Brian's a really good donor with us. People he knows seem to donate. He believes in our cause. So now I can go back to Brian and say, I know you have 3 friends and maybe somebody that you've done some mentor relationships with. Would you be willing to do a recommendation for us to those friends? So I've taken that Power BI data that we had back here on our initial dashboard, and I've used that for analysis. So we have a lot of other kind of dashboards. We're going to be doing another session later this week on campaign ROI. We're going to be talking about how we can use these dashboards to do things around campaign ROI. So I'm going to turn it back over to Lori, and she'll help close us out, or if we have any time, on any questions that we may have gotten.
If you have any further questions, please email us at info@stratuslive.com. And don't forget to join us this Thursday. We have another webinar on campaign ROI dashboards. Again, thank you for joining us, and thank you to Brett and Debbie for joining us as well.